Lakeland Public Television's Common Ground is brought to you by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
I got involved through working here when Pat and Dean hired me to work here. Of course, I had to learn. I knew about the beading end of it, but I had no clue whatsoever on glass. And we are going to mount the pattern onto our board and get started on the process. This is our gorgeous glass we're going to be working with. And we just want to secure the pattern down so it's not going to move. And then we'll put a protective shield over it so that when we get into the soldering, we aren't going to burn the paper up. And the shield that goes on it is just a plain plastic. So we can still see through it and see what our design looks like. And here's all our pieces. Now I'm going to move the board over to the side because we're going to now concentrate on this board, which is a special board used for cutting our glass. It's got little holes in it, so if we have little chips of things coming off, it will go right down into the cracks. So we try to keep as close to the inside of the line as we can instead of the outside. And we have less to grind, which will be what we're going to do next. Okay, now with this, I want to cut my glass in half so I have the two different pieces. So I'm going to start with this one. And I won't have any problems with breaking on one of the other sides. I like to use my fingers sometimes as a guide. Okay. And I can see that piece will go in here this way. Now we have to just get them all to fit nice. So now it's time to go to a grinder. This has a diamond stone on the top grinding part, and this runs with water, so we have to get the water going. And then get the wheel going. Picking out the glass and then creating something that I guess you can visualize it sort of, but it really doesn't come together till you're done with it. I guess just the finished product. I like doing this kind of stuff, and I always have been a person that does a lot of handcrafts. This dark turquoise will match up with the rest of it. And all right, looks like we're doing good on our pieces. Then the next step is cleaning them, and we'll foil. The foil is important to have on there so when you put the solder on, it has something to stick to. When we line the glass up so it's kind of in the middle of your foil, so you have a little bit on both sides so you can pinch it around. Sometimes that's difficult. If you get a little off kilter, you can just take a razor blade and trim it up, and you just stick it on there. And I like to crease it with my fingers. So we'll use the pins to pin it together, and that'll hold it pretty much in place, and then I'll get my other stuff set up. This is used to put on our seams so that when we put the solder down, it'll stick, and you'll hear a little sizzle kind of noise, almost like meat hitting a fry pan. It gives just a slight sizzle, and what this does is help bind the solder to the copper. And we're going to tack the corners first. I have a little gap that I've got to fill up, but I'm just going to start to tack, and what I'm doing is I'm just going to do the edges, and you can hear that sound. So we can take these all out. Kind of like that, and then we can smooth it over, make a real nice bead. And then we can do a little touch-up after we get down. Sometimes you can get an excess, and you can just kind of pull it along, and it'll Straighten that all out nice. You can do it the way I just did it, or you can do it this way, which is just a little bit here and a little bit there, and then you can run it all together too. Now I'm gonna kind of wipe the little bumps of solder off my glass. When I look at this one, or my new ones that I've been doing, and it's just unbelievable. But that's where practice makes perfect. You know, coming up with your idea, coming up with your colors and putting it all together. I guess I also think about it as a very ancient art. You know, a craft actually. Well, our beginners have done stuff similar to this. They've done the fleur-de-lis type of design, which has become a very popular design. Most of the pieces that they do are about 15 to maybe 20 pieces starting out with. Similar to this in size, maybe a little smaller in some things. All we're doing here is just widening the channel a little bit by pushing it through on an angle or kind of wiggling it so it widens it just a titch, which will help fit it better. And it just basically snaps down over the top of it all. I have to use two kinds of patina in this one. One for the solder and one for the zinc. First, where you'll see it's going to start turn color right away. And the more you put on it, the darker it's going to be. Well, this is where you really get to see your project coming out when you have it, when you start changing the colors from the solder to patina. This is what we call, it's a finishing compound. And we just squirt a little of that on there. And we're going to kind of blot this in. You don't really want to rub it. I guess in a way you could almost describe it as a glass picture. It'd be almost like doing a drawing or a painting, coming up with your idea, coming up with your colors and putting it all together. I guess I also think about it as a very ancient art, a craft actually. Very ancient, and I guess sometimes I even think about, what it would have been like to do something like this back then.
If you enjoyed this segment of Lakeland Public Television's Common Ground, consider making a contribution at lptv.org. If you have segment ideas pertaining to North Central Minnesota, contact us at legacy@lptv.org. Common Ground is funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund by the vote of the people on November 4th, 2008.